Hi, and welcome to 108 Healing Senses podcast. My name is Jennifer Taylor, and I'm so happy to introduce Bash from ReBourneRecovery.co.uk. Welcome, Bash.
Hi
Um,
Jen, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for coming on, and I'm so happy we're managing to finally speak because
Mm,
it's been nice to finally get you booked in, and it's what you're the subject that you have the information that you have gathered and learned and developed over your personal experience to create an incredible service is something another reason why I wanted you to come on this platform, because I want those that are seeking help, guidance, and direction if they have any issues around addiction will find some light within this conversation and hopefully a way forward. So, welcome, one and all, and welcome, Bash. And thank you so much. And yeah, tell the audience who you are, how your journey's been, and what's really pushing you in your purpose and mission right now.
okay. Right, three sections of my life journey has involved a relatively traumatic childhood, culminating in 25 years of addictive cycles, which, as most, if not all, addictive patterns end with a bit of a tragic, sad story of loss, bereavement, loss of faith in myself, loss of finances, loss of family, loss of everything. So I crashed at about the age of 38. And then from then on, a light switched on where I was able to reflect. And I can actually remember the conversation that occurred with myself in my own head. And I was basically sitting on my, or laying on my brother's cold floor on this 1 inch mattress after living a relatively affluent life. Um, with nothing. And a voice went off in my head and it said, Bash. And it spoke to me like I was in the third person. It said, Bash, you really got to understand this is going to be a tricky part of your journey now. And you need all the energy that you can get. And drinking and taking drugs and doing all those tragic things, all that self harm is not going to help the journey. So to keep all the energy, you just need to stop. And it's like a light sort of went off in my head, and I was able just to I just stopped drinking. That's basically what I did. And once or once I sorry stopped drinking, then the things that attach to the drinking tend to just peter away as well. Um, so breaking that last part of the journey down, um, yeah, I was sober for about 10 years, and then I got involved in a relationship that didn't serve me very well, should we say, and that plus a couple of other life curveballs got me into the back into booze again. So I drank for about 5 days, I guess, and it gave me the opportunity to reflect on something I practice today. So the opposite of dysfunction is structure. So somewhere something dysfunctional happened to me, and I had no structure, and the structure was I had no program to be able to. So I had done some 12 steps on and off over the years, which really did help, and I sort of read some books and things like that, but I didn't have anything that I could physically call a program, which I realized post that event that I needed to replace the drink and the drugs and the behaviors. Um, Otherwise, so basically, what I've learned over since that point is that the opposite of addiction is purpose. When I'm in purpose, I'm quite far away from addiction, and it's an opportunity to create purpose. So unless I've got a purposeful life, my addict energy will purpose itself, and that doesn't end well for me or anybody that's connected to me. So I've actually got a disease that bleeds on other people. So I don't have the choice whether I do something about it or not. I've actually got a social responsibility, because if I go into sort of deep active addiction and people start gravitating towards me, which does happen, they're going to get affected in a negative way. So I have to be extra vigilant. I don't believe there's a cure for addiction. I believe that I can put it in remission and keep it in remission as long as I've got a daily recovery plan. There's nothing mad and tragic. It's not like being in a an uninvited rehab situation. It's just like I make sure I'm cold showers every morning. I try and make sure I meditate every morning. I try and make sure I do breath. I 100% do breath work every day, all day and every day. And then whenever there's an opportunity, it's like having a whole pocket full of antidepressants, which I can take at any point in my life without any side effects other than good ones, you know. So I love a bit of breath work.
Yeah.
Doing the work that I do, I guess I've been doing this for 5 years now, supporting people on their journey. So from getting from sober curious into sobriety. Um, and what I think a lot of people notice when they get in the program, and what I mentioned to them, is that the actual usage is about 10% of the actual addictive cycle. You know, the other 90% is things like formulating healthy relationships with other people. I find that most people have got some sort of unhealthy addiction with drink or drugs or whatever, got some sort of codependence that resides in them. So what a drink is to an alcoholic, shall we say, a person is to another codependent, you know. So it doesn't have to be a codependent relationship with, you know, a respective other or a romantic partner. It could be with your own children, it could be with a work colleague, or it could be with your mum or your dad or something like that. So it's basically an unhealthy relationship. It's the opposite of um, you know, a healthy relationship, as in an intimate relationship, a relationship that revolves around intimacy. So into me, see, you know, one of those healthy bonds where you see into me, I see into you, you accept me as I am, I accept me as you are. I don't need to change you, you don't need to change me. We can just sort of like live in a harmonious way. So hopefully that answers that question in a bit of an elongated way. I'm sure there's bits and gaps in there that we can fill in later on.
No, I love that. And the, it's like the remedy for addiction is purpose. Absolutely. That
Mm,
I've experienced it that myself. I've seen it in others when they have no purpose. There is a creation energy, and if you're not creating, you are destructing.
yeah.
It's a bit like this is the polarity of, or at least the different shades of polarity in this universe is like, how are you going to be behaving? Are you going to be adding and contributing to life? Or are you going to be destroying it and like being that black hole and that void? And it is a real decision every single day, every moment. But if you're going through it or not, is, how can I turn up and be the best version of myself? And if that's being productive or constructive as your
Mm,
form of expressing love to yourself and others by serving others, there's a lot to be said by that. Um,
yeah. I like the term net positive. I want to be a net positive on this universe. And I think if I take instruction from the universe rather than my old conditioned programming, that works a lot better, you know. So if I get into a situation today, rather than go, what should I do here? You know, and all of a sudden I can hear the noise, the black wolf energy coming and trying to ferry me into a situation. And then I'll just step back and go, what does the universe want to express through me right now? And it's never what the, the unconscious self wants to experience, you know.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. And it is what asking those simple questions to yourself and
Mm,
taking a moment. If it's like, oh, I'm getting triggered, I can feel my nervous system dysregulating and like the old patterns might start to crop up. You're like, no, hang on.
mm. Yeah, let's just pause that video for a minute.
Just hold
Yeah,
on, just one
yeah.
moment. Let me
Mm.
just tune.
I quite like the as well. Like, you know, I was in a restaurant today along the Hastings seafront, and there was this really loud, noisy table, and they were like excessively loud to the point of me and my friend had to leave because I wanted to have a conversation.
Mm,
So my choices are have a word with the table. There was no choice just to sit there because it was just so deafening.
yeah.
So anyway, we exited and went to another place. And there was a day I would have got right wrapped up into that situation and gone, oh God, I wish I'd done this. I wish I'd done that. You know, that what if situation. What if I'd done this? You know, but now it's just a case of, you know, rather than take it personal, I just stepped into, well, what is the universe trying to show me from that situation? You know,
Mm,
and what it's showing me is there was a day I would have been drawn into that carnage. I probably would have caused an argument or a scene or something. I just shut up, you know, just can't you see there's other people in this restaurant that are trying to eat and have a meal, you know, in peace. But no, I just
sure.
extracted myself out when I had a conversation with a friend of mine, he's also does therapy work, and I said, and we were talking about one of the sessions in the book, which is about mind chatter, you know, and we said, look, how I've described it, you know, the noise that we've got in our heads, those thoughts, you know, it's put it on the same vein as like our hearts beat, our lungs breathe, and our minds chatter. You know, and none of those three we have to particularly get over invested in, especially the mind chatter. You don't have to get owned by that, and that was a similar sort of experience. You know, that essentially could have represented all the mind chatter going on that was disrupting my conversation with him. But just thought, oh, no, I can leave that over there. I want to come over here. And you do the same with mind chatter. because that's what gets us into it in the first place. That is that it always starts with that mind chatter, and to be more specific, it's the unhealthy relationship with that mind chatter. So if I've got somebody I'm working with and they're a month sober and their mind chatter says, "Come on, you've done a month of sobriety. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't have any addiction issues. Otherwise, you would have drunk in this month." That those thoughts are going to come in, but what's the relationship to that? How can you create a healthy relationship? That thought, the healthiest relationship is to question it, isn't it? What do you mean I haven't got anything wrong with me? What do I explain that last 25 years when I did have a problem with that's just disappeared?
Mm.
Probably not, and knowing this is a progressive illness, if I do take that first drink, do I think about that? The classic phrase that people in AA use, one drink is too many and a thousand's never enough. Do I have an off switch? Probably not. If you've got addiction, there's whatever people with addiction touch, there's not an off switch. Even when it comes to Netflix, I still do it today. I mean, I've got the addict energy in me. Rather than just watched a couple of episodes of this series on Netflix on holiday in Spain last week, I have to watch 2 seasons. So it's 20 episodes. It's equates to 14 hours of my life up the Swanee, but I enjoyed it. I think.
Sometimes, you know what? I feel like, yes, if you've got a lot of energy, and from a human design point, you're probably a manifesting generator. I'm the same thing. It's
Mm,
like there's this unquenchable energy within you to like just to create. And again, if it's you're not creating and you're on the flip side of things, you could be highly destructive at great lengths quite quickly. But things like binge watching Netflix, you have to consider, do I do it every single week? Or do I just do it once in a while when I'm on holiday?
mm,
And it's that
mm,
rest period. And I think it's really important for wherever you are on your journey, however healed or regulated you are, is to just keep checking in with yourself. Is like, is this benefiting me now and in the future?
mm. And the big question to ask is it having a positive or a negative impact on me? That's
Yes.
the main question.
And if it's getting you more rest because you've been working hard and you're having some time off, I don't see any problem in
Could
that.
me still, while my brain's sort of like actively
Uh,
engaging in the thing, my body's like, okay, we're not playing badminton today. We're not walking. We're not rushing about. We're
Yeah,
just being still.
yeah. And that takes practice as well, actually, from
Especially if you've got addict energy, because it's all very scattered. It's all very urgent. It's all very cravey.
it's a lot of energy, and a lot of it is we need to ground it. And you ground it by being purposeful and
Yeah,
doing something with that energy. If you don't and you let it be in your head, you'll overthink, you'll procrastinate, nothing will get done, and you'll be in the same situation or maybe worse than yesterday.
yeah,
That's the breadth of like, if you want to change, if you're not happy in your life, you need to choose to go a different direction. Be
yeah. We don't.
that
Nobody wakes up thinking I'm going to make the same crazy mistakes that I did last week, but we often do, don't we?
there's normally a tipping point. There's a
Mm.
point when like you had, you there's a point of there's enough quiet,
Point of pain.
the point of pain and enough quiet in your mind and your heart to be like, you know what? I deserve better.
Mm,
I deserve to have a loving, peaceful, creative, successful life. I'm
mm,
healthy and I'm in healthy relationships. you know, Everyone deserves that. But again, it's all by choice. And if people continue to go down that, blaming other people or, you know, making the same bad judgments and bad choices about relationships and situations, and if they're not aspected in a productive way, then it's highly likely that it's going to be more on the other way. And then you have to, it's a life is constantly about reflecting on what's happening. Have things changed? Are things still on course? Are they still in the highest alignment for you and where you're going? And it's they've done so many studies. The highest performers have all had trauma and they are all hyper focused and what you would call ADHD. They're highly productive. Again, use that energy for good. Be productive. Focus that in. But that requires grounding and getting that energy, like taking it through your body and getting to work.
mm.
But that takes practice. That's consistency and discipline. and taking personal self-responsibility for your life, because you can't blame everyone else and build an empire. Those two things don't work. They don't go hand in hand. You
Disciplined awareness is the term I tend to use for that.
nice.
Constantly being aware of what's going on and how I'm thinking and what I'm doing and what are the consequences of my choices. And yeah, so that's where you put that scattered energy. So this is where I think I'm one of those undiagnosed ADHD characters, and my understanding of it is it's related to childhood trauma, where I've had an unsafe childhood and I've had to constantly scan my environment to sort of reassure and guarantee my safety. Well, I never guarantee safety, but to sort of find that sort of level of reassurance. Then that scattered energy would go into the school environment and be classed as naughty, troublesome child because I can't focus on one thing. I'm always sort of.
Yeah, you're looking for
But if you
threat.
can harness that,
Mm,
once you've harnessed that scattered energy, it's like having sort of like five brains on one project. No, it's great.
yeah.
Mm,
But it's fun actually. Again, that's another thing is when you make that choice of no, I want to live a happier life, and that does mean I have to change things up. That it then
mm,
becomes fun because that becomes your focus. It's not the destructive nature of things, it's the how can I best construct my reality.
mm.
And when you really get into that, like it's a beautiful space to be in. Sure, you're going to have challenges and ups and downs, but the growth as a person and as a business is really it's wonderful. I really see it. It's a hand in hand. You heal your inside, and then you're able to have a really productive and healthy external reality, and that might be through family, relationships, your career, your business. If you're building a
Yeah,
legacy, all of these things, everything has to reflect that inner outer world. But we can harness it, and things never have to stay the same. They can.
yeah, and it's like a harnessing thing. It's a bit like riding. When once I realized I got this addict energy or ADHD energy, scattered attention, whatever you want to call it, then it's like I've got to get on this horse, and it's going to buck me off a few times, and I've just got to suffer the pain of the falls. But I think once you get on it, and yeah, it's a good energy, and this is I think what makes a clear definition between the ReBourne Recovery program and various other ones. I'm not saying it's better, because I don't think any program is better than another. It's how it works for the
Mm,
individual. But one of the principles we use is, making a friend of that addict energy, because that addict, not enough energy,
yeah.
if you apply it to a bar, not good. You're going to come out with a stinky hangover, right? But if you apply that not enough energy, like you're saying, to your business, it's like, okay, well, that's not good enough. I'm going to do that. I'm going to sort of increase my web presence. I'm going to increase my client bank. I'm going to sort of like employ some more people so we can work together and produce more. Then you're really on it. You're still, the addict's still getting fed, but you're also getting fed in a positive way. I'm not, I haven't got that sort of self sabotage. I've got more sort of self growth going on.
Yeah, you're lit up by your experiences rather than kind of chasing a false light, which is through addictions of codependent relationships or whatever the thing is. Because people can get addicted to anything, but it's
But
not.
this is it, and this is one thing I've been having the conversation with a lot of people about over the last few years. Is I know there's a lot of I'm no psychotherapist or far from it, but I do think there's an addictive element to people with depression. That what we've got. So if you imagine an unhealthy relationship with alcohol means having sort of 8 pints a day, and that's going to sort of destroy your life. I think we can take that same principle and have an unhealthy relationship with our thoughts, and that creates depression. All the time we're hyper focusing on dark thoughts, we're not focusing on good thoughts. Or so, one of the sessions that I do is all about the mind chatter, and how you can make that comparison with, oh my God, a lot of people think the mind chatter is them, but it isn't. It's just something that goes on, like your breath isn't you, or your heartbeat isn't you. They're just things that happen, and it's how we formulate a relationship with it. So for example, if you take the heartbeat, that's going to happen whether we like it or not, hopefully, otherwise we're going to die. But to formulate a healthy relationship with the heartbeat, we've got to exercise, and we've got to be good into our nutrition and hydration. That's going to formulate a healthy heart. If we want a healthy relationship with our breath and our lungs, we've got to learn to do breath work, do some, conscious breathing and diaphragmatic breathing, or um, square breathing. What is it? It's the
Box
cube
breathing?
box breathing. That's the terminology I was looking for. And then if we take those same principles of, like, you know, having a healthy relationship with your heart, having a healthy relationship with your breath, having a healthy relationship with your thoughts, you know, so it's not what comes into your head that's the problem. We have 50,000 thoughts a day. Some rock books write that we have 50,000 random thoughts a day. 95% of them are repeats, and 5% of them are unique, apparently. But again, it's not the thoughts, you know, and anybody that gets 50,000 thoughts a day, that's going to be intrusive. It's your relationship with those thoughts. That's the thing that we've got control over. We don't have, like, I think I've said to you before, Jen, in conversations, what you're going to be thinking in 10 minutes' time.
Mm.
Nobody knows. You know, you couldn't possibly pinpoint what you're going to be thinking in 10 minutes' time. So we can't take responsibility over something that we got no control over, but we can take responsibility over how we meet that thought. So in 10 minutes' time, that thought is, oh God, is that interview awful? Blah, 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 blah. You know, did I do this one? Okay. What's the relationship to that thought? You know, was it awful? Let's watch it back and see how awful it really was. You know, let's not just take the word, the thoughts as gospel, because
Mm.
that's a big mistake to make.
Yeah,
We've got to question these thoughts, because you know, the thoughts are here to protect us, but sometimes they can just get a bit, you know, over exuberant, can't they, in their approach? Right, let's just, and they hyper focus on, let's just make sure you look right. You know, so have you got the right label on, or whatever it is, to, you know, embellish that sense of self. You know, to validate. You know, it's another big thing that comes up in the addiction world. You know, we're trying to validate ourselves all the time. You don't need to compare yourself to anybody else. One of the principles of the program, you don't need to compare yourself to you, and more specifically, older versions of you. Okay, I'm feeling a bit crap today. I'm not doing very well. Okay, how am I doing compared to how I did 2 years ago? Actually, bloody amazing. You know, we've just changed that whole thought process right there in that moment.
it's important to reframe because it's really easy to get stuck and bogged down in a bad thought.
Yeah.
My experiences have, I've also come at it from not just a psychological mental health well-being of me transmuting it myself, but also coming from the spiritual point of view, because intrusive thoughts is a real thing,
Mm,
but intrusive thoughts that are like incredibly dark, um or very painful, you know. And I've there's a lovely guy called Andrew Porter. I've had on the podcast a couple of times. He's lovely, and his mode has been so he's a psychic surgeon, but he worked with a therapist called Dr. Palmer when he was alive, and they found that 95%, or it might have even been higher than that, of the people that had committed suicides had either had committed suicide or thought about committing suicide. They all had intrusive thoughts. So
mm,
they were coming up with the research that actually there is an energetic level to this, as well as you're just having bad thoughts. But that consistent bad thoughts normally could come with doing toxic things or being around toxic people, which lowers your vibration. And negative things can influence and whisper in your ear, and you think it's yourself. And a lot of people that do take their lives are having this challenge right now, and it's such an important thing. Some people might listen to this and think, well, that's a bit out there, but you know, is it really? We've
mm,
got Wi-Fi that works, but we can't see it. So there's not any difference in my senses, also because I've experienced it firsthand, is the extrasensory things that you don't see but you feel and you experience, and it comes through in your emotions as well. And being able to master your energy, your body, and your mind and your heart does come with being being really honest with yourself and having the protocols in place
mm,
to deal with intrusive thoughts, to have structures in your life to be able to support you and regulate you if you're going through something challenging in those moments, because it happens to all of us, happens to the best of us, and we're always consistently trying to become better versions of ourselves as well, so it never ends. And there is definitely no comparison, and anyone that tries to do the comparison thing, you know, in my book, they're not worth having around, because it's not, you're not there, you're not being compassionate and considerate for one another. You're not able to hold the space because they're unable to hold that frequency in the first place. Therefore, they're unable to hold that for anyone else because they can't hold it for themselves. And this is where that truth and honesty comes in about the relationships that we're having, is how does this person make me feel, or this situation? And if it's consistently less than good all the time, you're always feeling bad or guilty or worse, this is where the truth and the honesty has to come in and say, no, I need to change my life because this isn't on. And I
Yeah.
just,
How does that person serve me? That's the thing.
yeah,
I don't mean serve me as in they're subservient to me. How does it serve me to be in this person's company, and how does it serve them?
yeah,
I thought I've been, victim and perpetrator in my lifetime, especially, if you've had 25 years of addiction, in your active addiction under your belt, there's going to be a lot of emotional casualties. I liken myself to an emotional wrecking ball during those times where, even post that as well, it just doesn't go away the moment I put a drink down. The addictive thinking still resides, so I've had to, and like I say, I don't believe there's any cure for addiction. I think it'll always be with me till the day I die. But I think you can put it in remission. I can put it in remission as long as I've got an active recovery plan. I've got to do my cold showers every day. I've got to do meditations every day. I've got to do work like this every day. I've got to continue writing my book. I've got to continue working with clients, connecting with my kids and my grandkids, and drink plenty of water, look at my nutrition. It's just and 80% of the stuff is what every other human being has to do. But I think with people with addiction, they've just got that added um they'd have to pay like a bit more attention to what goes on, because for us, if we hang about with the wrong person, for example, that will take us down a dark path. So we have to be very
constantly hanging
conscious
out.
about our boundaries. We've got to be very vigilant about how we are aware of how I'm affecting somebody or they're affecting me,
Yeah.
and just watch out for those red flags, and don't make them appear like red roses.
Ooh, very good.
Mm, mm.
Tell me more about your book.
It's good. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been putting it out. So I wrote the program about just over 5 years ago. So I've been running it for just over 5 years now. Um, so it's been written for quite a while. And for the last sort of couple of years, I've been sending it out there to various people. Should we do some work on this, get it edited, get it pub, and it just kept on hitting brick walls. And then I met up with a friend of mine last year, and he said, "Do you know what, Bashir? I don't know what you said to me. We had a conversation about 6 weeks earlier." He said, "I don't know what you said to me, but I stopped drinking at that point." He said, "I'd like to have a little look at some of the work you've been doing." And he's had his own publications as well. He's published 4 books already. So he read some of the sessions which I work with people, and he said, we need to get this out like now. So this would have been about December time last year, so a good 6 months ago. So we've been working really hard at editing it and polishing it and getting it in place. Literally in that moment when I saw him, he said, "I'm going to um, email my publicist now," and so he did. And we had an appointment a couple of days later, and we said, "Yep, sounds good to me." So we've been working on this project of rewriting it. So it's been a rewriting and editing and tweaking, and sometimes we'll look at one sentence 30 times and we'll keep rewriting it until it sounds right. So once we've got the polished version, and you've helped me with the cover this last sort of week, Jen, which I really really appreciate, and hopefully we'll do a bit more work on that today after this and
Yeah.
get it finally polished.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's work in progress at the moment, but I'm hoping the book's going to be out. I'd like to think by the autumn, early autumn at the latest.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And what kind of who's your audience for the book, and how will they be able to use your book?
That's a great question. Well, it's for everybody really, because I think if you took addiction, right, and then if you took every disease under the sun, like stroke, cancer, heart attack, all of those things, whatever, pneumonia, just added all of those illnesses together, you're still nowhere near the amount of death and carnage that addiction causes as a isolated disease, if you like, a disease of the mind, if you want to call it that, or you call it an allergy, whatever, however you want to relate to it. Yet it's one of those really misunderstood. There's little pockets of wisdom. So let's take Gabor Mate, for example. He's really got a hold of it. He's own so he's able to sort of have how trauma, not enough energy, are called addiction. That basically there's that sort of 3-layer cake, and then the fourth layer of that cake is the behaviors that sit on top of the addiction. So he's been a great inspiration for me.
Could you just
Carl Jung's been a great inspiration.
Could you just re-say what you said about Garbo Mate, because my internet connection went a bit funny and I'm not sure if it if it actually recorded it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Gabor Mate's been one of my sort of great inspirations, because he's had his own lived experience and his own traumas in his infancy, and that translated into his own addictive cycles. And then working on Skid Row in Vancouver, with I've read his book. It's a great book, called "In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts," read very eloquently by his son, which was really interesting to hear. But usually I'm going for these books that are read by the author, but I was really taken by his son reading his book for.
Mm.
Yeah, and the late great Carl Jung has been a great inspiration. So using, you know, pockets of information from Gabor Mate, pockets of information from Carl Jung, 12-step meetings, reading loads of books on addiction, podcasts. There's just so much information out there. And plus my own 25 years of lived experience, plus all the people I've ever met with addiction, I've managed to accumulate a wealth of knowledge to be able to help people to beat a path out of it if they want to. You've got to want it, haven't you? I think there's not many people out there that if you could offer them this a magic pill, they wouldn't take it if it was going to stop them drinking or taking drugs or smoking or gambling or whatever it is that they happen to be involved in, which is having a negative impact on those and those that are sort of surround them. But going back to your original question of who's it aimed at, obviously people that host addiction, so people that are sober curious, for example, they've thought about it but they've never quite had the tools. And this is the thing, when people wake up on a Monday morning with a hangover and they're like, why did I do that? They genuinely don't know. I never knew. I just woke up for 25 years with a hangover on a Monday, most Mondays, and I genuinely didn't know why I did it. I had to do a lot of exploration and a lot of reading and a lot of deep diving.
Mm.
And still, it's an ongoing process. I'm not sitting here like some addiction guru that thinks I know it, because I do not. Definitely, there's a whole wealth of knowledge out there. There's a lot that I don't know about it, but I've known enough to keep me sober for the best part of 18 years outside of that week that I went out. And there's a lot of people that have worked this program that are now living their own sober lives. And again, we don't just go for sobriety. I know there's a lot of addiction services out there that just focus on the sobriety, and that to me is about 10% of the work. So the other 90% revolves around feeling comfortable in your own skin. So the four outcomes that we go for in ReBourne is obviously sobriety. That's what most people come through the door to work on. And then it's feeling comfortable in their own skin or comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah.
Then it's living life on, life's terms rather than, being the director of the show all the time and getting it all wrong and things coming out sideways. And then it's living life on their own terms. There's a lot of people out there that live on their life on, well, society thinks I should be like this, or my family thinks I should be like this, or religious beliefs thinks I should be this, or whatever it is. And what I try and do, and part of the journey of the ReBourne project, is to introduce people to their essential sense of self, and that's not the one that was programmed in childhood, so that's where people make their choice from. These addictive choices come from the programming. It's not their essential sense of self. The essential sense of self is what can witness that. So we get a bit spiritual in that, and how we, who are we? Who are you? A lot of people will say, well, my name's Bash, and I, live in East Sussex, and that's not who I am. That's my name, and that's where I live. Oh, I do this for a job. No, that's what you do for a job. So what I'm curious to find out is who is beyond that. Who the who am I question. So
Who
this is
are
what we try
you?
and get to. Yeah, it gets a bit spooky at this point. So well, I think once we've established a sense of self, then we can start witnessing that. So I can witness my programming that's caused all this chaos and carnage for me and those around me,
Mm.
but this programming can't witness me, and that's the best way to create that definition. And so who you're dealing with then. And then once you've established that there's the programming, there's the dysfunction. The opposite of dysfunction is structure. As we've had this discussion before, our superpower, the same as every other person on this planet, our superpower is creation. We're in the Christian sense, God made us in his own image. He was a great creator. We're also great creators. Now what we've got to do is use that superpower of creation to create the structure to stop that dysfunctional childhood programming
Yeah.
affecting me and affecting those that orbit me in a negative way.
Mm.
Sounds like an easy task, doesn't it, when I put it like that? But it's a daily practice.
It's, you know what? It's knowing that you've got a direction to go in.
Yeah.
And
That's the structure, yeah. And I think that's where the program comes in. We've got
yeah.
25 modules and they all do a different thing. So if I get somebody that comes and they sit in front of my screen and they're like, "Oh, Bash, I just had a big argument with my boss and I don't know what to get." Okay, well, let's get the non-violent communication module out. Let's readdress and reassign the energy here so we can sort of like, reestablish harmony in your professional workspace. Or it might be, I can't get on with my kids. Like, okay, let's assess the relationship with the children. Let's bring a relationship module in, and it's broken down into 20 easy components, and we can establish where that relationship's going a bit awry, and we can put it right again. Look for the dysfunction, tune into the super creation, create the structure that's the opposite of dysfunction, and realign with whoever it is you've fallen out with. There's always some module within there. Oh God, my mind won't stop talking. Okay, let's get the mind chatter session out there. Let's look at how you talk to yourself. Would you talk to your children like that? No. Okay, so why do you think it's okay to talk to yourself like that? So these are the sort of conversations that we have that are sort of not the conversation that you're going to have at the checkout or at a bus stop or something like that.
It's the deep, meaningful conversations that we all deeply crave, but
Yeah.
maybe few of us receive. But you have to also start that initiation of having the conversation, then you'll end up finding lovely people like yourself, or
Yeah.
or myself, or other practitioners as well, where they're like, okay, now I feel like I'm speaking to someone who can finally hear me,
Mm,
and has a structure and solutions to be able to move forward and progress in life rather than stay stuck.
yeah.
But I love,
And when you get that wonderful person, whoever it is, that's is able to sit with you and hold that space, and all of a sudden you can meet that person that you've always wanted to be, and they've been with you all the time.
mm,
It's just that the vision. The classic example I use is if somebody's feeling down on themselves. I say, look, how old are you? Right, so you just turned 37, Jen. Right, so let's rewind the clock 37 years, right, and let's look at you as a 1 day old baby and that little perspex cot or wherever you were at the age of one day, and you look at that baby like, as a, are you worth loving as a 1 day old baby? And it's like, well, of course you are.
yeah.
Every 1 day old baby's worth loving. And it's like, well, nothing's changed. You're still worth loving. The only thing that's changed is your perception of yourself. And once people hear, they're like, oh yeah, of course, yeah. Makes life a lot more easier just knowing that I'm worth loving.
Yeah.
Because, knowing that is you can do it without, being sort of overinflated or, without hubris. You can actually, yeah, I'm worth loving, because if you are worth loving, yeah, that makes you much more willing to step into situations because you've got more confidence attached to it.
Yeah.
And you can always tell when you're around somebody that loves themselves, but they're not up themselves, can't you? That you just get a level of comfort. And
Mm,
I think that's the look that we try and go for when we work this program. So when we take that addict energy and the low self worth, so the 3 layers of this, or 4 layers of the cake rather. So we've got the childhood trauma, which sits on the bottom. If we're going to talk about addiction, the
yeah.
next level on the childhood trauma. So we've had parents that didn't treat us with the respect and kindness that we deserved. We can't, by nature doesn't allow us to stop loving our parents because we just go into the woods and die somewhere.
Mm,
So what we do is we stop loving ourselves, you see. So that's the birth of the low self-worth. And when we've got that low self-worth, not enough energy, I don't feel enough, then nothing feels enough. Whatever we do and what we say, what we drink and what we eat, and whatever we formulate a relationship, it always becomes unhealthy because we have to overindulge on it, or we're trying to validate ourselves on various terms which are nothing to do with us.
mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Healing that inner wiring, that you love yourself in a
Mm.
balanced way.
Yeah,
is
yeah, in a healthy way.
Yeah, is a massive, that is the journey.
Mm.
However, whatever things that you do along the way, like you do your cold showers in the morning, that's a form of self-love, because you know that you need that, because it helps you.
Yeah, and brushing your teeth in the morning. You can either brush your teeth and go,
Amazing. Yeah.
oh, like that, or you can go, do you know what? And one of the thoughts is, this is me loving myself. I'm looking after my teeth. So I've got these teeth when I'm 80 years old. I'm not sitting there with dentures in my face.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it's all these little 1%ers. It's nothing. It's not one big trip. It's just like 1%, 1%. Make sure you just do your hair right, or put nice clothes on, or iron your shirt. Whatever it is you have to do to make yourself feel good about yourself and make yourself, present yourself in a way that you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
It's all a form of self love. Sort of same
Mm,
as after your kids. The way you dress them and do their hair. Do that to yourself.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that
Mm.
compounding self-love.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and it will always grow. That's the best thing about whatever you feed will grow. Just
Yeah.
keep feeding
And
yourself.
also whatever you give gratitude to, and this is another thing that comes up in the program, it's that getting to that deep understanding gratitude. So an example I give is, okay, I've got a packet of crisps. So it's a bit difficult over a Zoom call, but I'm sitting next to you, eat a packet, I'm eating a packet of crisps. Here, Jen, do you want a crisp? I'm like, yeah, I'll have one. Thank you very much. Because you said thank you, I'm much more likely to give you another one. And this is the way
Mm,
gratitude works, So if I'm sitting there being right, there is another angle on this as well. So we go deeper into that gratitude for a lot of programs. It's like, okay, be grateful for this, grateful for your kids, grateful for the roof over your head, blah blah blah. But when you take that step further, so let's say, for example, I'm really grateful for the view out that I'm looking out my window at the moment. I'm grateful for the fact that I work hard to be able to afford to get a view like that, or I'm grateful for not just for my kids. I'm grateful for the time and energy and effort that I invest into my kids. Because then I'm raising my vibration. And your vibe attracts your tribe. So once we've got to that stage where we're running on a really high vibration, right? You don't want to compromise it with a drink or a drug.
no.
So it's not about preventing yourself from doing something or stopping something you're doing you really want. You're adding you're adding things to your life where there's just no space for addiction to come in.
That's it. Life is so sweet. You don't need to add anything.
Sugar. Yeah.
Don't need to add anything extra. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
I am, you anyone, you get them like really inner purpose things that they love doing, and they
Mm.
get a buzz about them and they're
Yeah.
excited. Keep that going. Keep sending electricity to that bulb that, illuminate that aspect of your life, because that's a positive thing, not only for yourself but everyone around you.
And that's an important thing, isn't it? One way to light yourself up is to light other people up, isn't it?
Mm.
And make them feel good about themselves.
It's important that, because this can happen as well, is those that don't that haven't been able to fully process all of their trauma, then
Mm.
projects their unhealed trauma as a way of kind of getting their anger out, but rather than it being like a productive, let's change things, it can come with a more of an angry angle on it, which kind of still sort of self perpetuates the trauma to a degree as well. So deep healing is required alongside growing and building and helping others as well. I don't see it separate. It's either one or the other. You have to do both. And if you're not, you're going to get stuck somewhere. And I say that from past experience. I did hit a wall because I hadn't gone deeper into my subconscious and into my deeper healings that was required in order for
Mm.
me to set my bar higher on so many aspects. But
It's a
one,
bit like going through different doors, isn't it? We get different levels of our
yeah,
life and different stages of our life.
yeah,
Sometimes we get to the next stage and we go through the door and we've got all this trauma baggage. We're not going to fit through the door. So we've
mm,
got to process that so we can go through the door. And the next one's a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller.
yeah.
Mm.
Just keep elevating yourself, and you need to do that by acknowledging the baggage that you have. Don't get stuck in it or keep looping and repeating it. Find ways of processing it
Mm.
with your book or your
Mm.
program.
Mm.
Um, and we practice and keep bettering ourselves.
Mm.
That
And I think a lot of it, Jen, is lots of different principles. When I grew up as in the 70s and 80s, it was all about stitching time saves and iron a bird in the hands worth turn the bush. It's like, what's these old wives' tales? But that is what life's all about, isn't it? Like a classic one. Life isn't about getting better at feeling. Sorry, beg your pardon. A life isn't about feeling better. It's about getting better at feeling. The opposite of dysfunction is structure. Our superpower is creation. If we, there's always some, when you've got a head full of all these different slogans, if you like, and catchphrases that you can apply it to all these different situations. Every time there's a situation that's dysfunctional, great. Okay, that's dysfunction. The opposite of dysfunction is structure. I've got super creation. All of a sudden, you've got this formula to be able to think and work your way out of any situation.
I quite like doing the inverse for simplicity. I'm like, if that's destructive, what could be productive in this circumstance?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
another that's my personal one of like, if I don't like something, what's the inverse and is it in the highest?
Mm.
Whatever it is that we can all do to reflect on the situation, so we don't just keep repeating um same
Patterns.
old
Yeah,
programs and patterns,
yeah.
destructive behaviors, because nothing ever changes if we don't change, nothing changes.
No, it's true. and be the change we wish to see in others. And I quite like Buddha's teaching of being willing to embrace the lows as equally as we embrace the highs in life. You know, it's very easy to cruise through life when everything's going well. We don't actually learn very much. It's when we hit those walls and we get like 3 curveballs in a day and a parking ticket, and somebody sort of like smashes into us with a trolley or whatever, all these different situations. I'm in a restaurant, there's a really noisy crowd of people behind me. It's those situations that we learn from, isn't it? It's getting through them.
And you're right. And yeah, when you were speaking, and I was thinking, there's not enough that's put on actually society, I would say, because it's all about competition and who's better than the other one. And with that kind of structure, there's no room to be reflective on, okay, well, what didn't happen? What didn't work so well? Where could there be improvements for next time? Where did taking self-responsibility or spotting the responsibility of others for their co-creation in that experience to say,
Mm.
I'm not going to take 100% responsibility because that wasn't all me. But I
Yeah, there's no where your stuff stops and somebody else's starts, right? That's
absolutely, and there is
mm,
there is always a co-creation, always,
mm,
even if you're observing the co-creation between others, and it's up to you whether you get involved or you don't. You know that
mm.
there's there's so much out there, and if we all just took a minute and went inwards to reflect before reacting to a situation, whether it could be in our control or not, like the news is another good one. You know, if you're constantly absorbing negative things and you're unable to do anything, of course it's going to make you feel helpless. It's going to make you feel angry. It's going to cause a lot of inner rage. You're in inner helplessness. You'll start to project all of your traumas externally, but you haven't
Mm.
addressed your own traumas internally before you start this kind of rampage
Yeah.
towards others. It's like, whoa, 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 hold your horses. Just check on yourself first. Like, really go inwards first before
Mm.
you start behaving like a fire-breathing dragon in the world around you. Is just, why don't you focus that energy inwards and be productive, creative, constructive, make
And
your
to simplify it, if you're watching the news and it's all of that bad vibration, what's the opposite of a bad vibration? A good vibration. So, you know, spend your time rather than focusing on the vibration coming out of the square box, just well, what do I need to do to create high vibration? Let's start every morning with some upbeat music or dance or sing or have a cold shower or have a squeezed lemon for breakfast rather than a toxified caffeinated drink or something,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The
Mm.
life is meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah. Well, I
Balance.
think the natural state is joy, isn't it? If you look at
Yeah.
dogs and creatures and that, they always seem to
Good.
look joyous, don't they? I'm just looking at
Yeah.
the window at lambs at the moment, and they just seem really happy.
When you've got food, you've got shelter. Those are your necessary survival instincts. Of you're
Mm.
gonna have to have money somewhere to buy the food and have the shelter, but
Well,
that's
this is another sort of a program thing. We've got with addiction, it's very, very standardized to focus on the what ifs. So we go into anxiety or the what was, which where we go into the past thinking, and we go into sort of like guilt and shame. And this is where the breath work and the meditation is so, so important because it brings us into the what is. And what is for most people, not all, but we're safe, we're warm, and we're loved. But it's a very easy one to forget. There's always somebody out there that loves us or will love us when we start making the right choices.
and if anyone listening to this doesn't feel like they have anyone that loves them, then choose yourself.
We love them.
Yes, and also source. Well,
Yeah.
whatever your perspective on creation is,
Mm,
we were created before our parents, and where did that, everything. I mean, that's a series of podcasts,
mm,
but that is it's a powerful thing to do. Love you first, and call on the support of your love team, your guides, source. And
mm.
then there will be earth angels like
Isn't
myself.
it? It always starts, doesn't it, with you? Until we love ourselves, we can't generate that love outside of ourselves. I don't think until you can sit in solitude, solitude being the opposite of loneliness, which is a hard one to get your head around at the beginning. But yeah, well, solitude is sitting comfortably in your own skin, in your own company without anybody about, and loneliness is missing people, right? So until you can sit in that solitude and think, you know what, I'm okay, I'm doing all right, my intentions are good, I'm a decent person, I'm going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Not perfect, none of us are, but it's progress, not perfection. It doesn't matter how slow you go, as long as you don't stop, like Confucius said. There's
Yeah.
all right. The term we used early on was about coincidence, wasn't it? Einstein saying coincidence is God's way of showing up anonymously. As long as we can keep little adages like that going on in our head and just cruise through life in a bit more of a conscious way, I think we're doing all right. It's not a big gig, is it? It's just a
Yeah.
1%, 1%.
Yeah. And 1% is enough. Don't let anyone tell you it's not.
Mm,
Just, reach
yeah,
out, do what's right for you.
yeah.
But that's great. Bash, do you have any kind of final words before we complete the podcast today?
Okay. Well, yeah. I think hopefully, there's going to be people that are sober curious, or they know they live with addiction, but they haven't sort of found a way out of it. And the fear behind it is that, what does life look like beyond addiction? There is a life beyond addiction. Have a look at the website. ReBourne, just put in search engine ReBourneRecovery.com, or just ReBourne Recovery, and it's usually in the top 2 or 3, or top, you know, wherever. And so I've been on this journey and it is a journey. I don't think I'm ever going to be cured. But I've been on this sober journey for the best part of 18 years now. And every single person I've met, without exception, that's on the same or similar journey of abstinence and sobriety and recovery, nobody misses the old way of being. Okay. So this is the bit of three people. Whenever I work with people, I always ask three things: show up. And I don't mean show up just for an hour a week. I mean, show up for the other 167 hours.
Mm.
Be honest. Otherwise, it's not going to work if you're not honest. And trust the process, right? So this is that trust the process bit. So if you're sitting there listening to this, thinking, "Oh yeah, well, it seems like a good idea, but I don't. What's a wedding going to look like if I don't drink? Or what's a funeral going to be like? Or what's Christmas going to be like? Or what's my birthday going to be like?" It's going to be great. Just trust me on that. This is that trust the process bit. It's all going to be fine, and you're going to wish you had done it years ago.
Yeah.
It's all very accessible, but it is hard. It is one of the most misunderstood conditions or diseases or illnesses or um, allergies, however you want to frame it. It's
Mm.
very, very misunderstood. But if you get into the right program, it suits you, whether it's something that I do, or it's 12 steps, or a book by Gabor Mate, or whatever it may be. If it works for you, great. So yeah, the advice would be, go for it. Give it a try. You can always go back. Even if you go out for a week and just see what sobriety is like for a week, at least you've had a taste of it. It doesn't have to be a lifelong thing. It's just when you're ready, but you've got to feel ready. That's the other thing. It has to be on your terms. It can't be on anybody else's terms.
Wonderful. Thank you,
Mm.
Bash. Thank
All
you.
right.
Do you have any services or events or anything coming up you'd like to share?
Um, no, I'm focusing just quite a lot of energy on completing the book. I'd like it to be out end of the summer, beginning of autumn. That'd be quite nice. That'd be a nice target to go for.
Yes.
And then I guess the events would be just getting it out there, really, because I think there's just a lot of, if anybody's just having a look at the website, for example, I think there's a lot of words in there that can meet people on an energetic level. And what I've noticed, if there's a couple of interviews and podcasts, we'll probably load this one on there as well. Every time that somebody's looked at it and we've spoken afterwards, that there's always something in there that resonates with them. So there's quite a lot of info on there. So I might do a bit of work on the website maybe once I finish the book work. But yeah, no, nothing major. Just live each day as sober as I can and as peaceful as I can. Enjoy life on life's terms, really.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah,
wise words and
yeah.
a lovely wise heart. So thank you for coming on. I really appreciate
Uh,
it. And I know today will be like seeds of light that will find those that have been seeking
mm,
these solutions, these nuggets, just to give some direction or guidance or insight or even a spark of action, which is
yeah. Well, if somebody's watching this, I don't believe in coincidence. I do believe what Einstein said. it's it's God's way of showing up anonymously. So with that in mind, yeah, they made big trees grow from small acorns.
I love that.
Mm.
And for me, if anyone would like to work on more of a energetic on a timeline aspect, whether it's for personal or professional reasons that you want to get more clarity and insight into your relationships, your health, your wealth, your career, your business, or you even want to build it from the beginning upwards, or you're a solopreneur and yeah, maybe tech isn't quite your your strongest point. I am your techie design queen. And
I can vouch for that one.
yeah, thanks, Bash. So
Mm.
I've got services you can either work. I have weekly group sessions where I go through, and there's a library of videos as well from the things that I've gone past, so you can get super informed about how to run your business and take it to the next level. And I also do one-to-ones as well. So wherever you need to go and whatever you would like to find resolve or direction on, I would love to connect and possibly work with you. So that's all from me. And yeah, I suppose that is now the complete for the podcast. Thank you so much again, Bash, and I look forward to continue working with you on your book and see it out there as well and reaching all the
Mm.
right people. So very
Uh,
exciting times.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. And
Thanks.
thank you, everyone. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, and I look forward to see you in the next episode. And let's keep building this channel and get more solutions than problems into the world.
Oh, lovely.
Bye for now.
See you. Bye.
Bye.